Hello. Today what I want to talk to you about is how to facilitate when it's one-on-one. It's always interesting because when we think facilitation, we always think small group or large group. But really facilitation is many of the encounters that we have. So today as I talk to you, I want to talk to you a little bit about the mindset that you should have when you're facilitating one-on-one, also the structure of the conversation, and then finally some of the techniques that we have found to be very, very successful. Yes, facilitation happens in a variety of settings, and sometimes someone will approach me, and oftentimes after a group setting, and they will say, I'd like to go a little bit deeper or to talk to you more to uncover some of the struggles that I have. This is facilitation just the same. If you think about it, when you know that you're speaking for a group, then you prepare. You get a structure to the meeting. You pretty much have an agenda of what you'll cover. And you'll think about if there is any follow-up work that needs to happen. One thing that I love about the WholeHearted Facilitation Program is the fact that we have in our manual activities that can be done for a group just as well as an individual. So if you need content, it's always there for you. So with the mindset, I just want you to go into it knowing that this encounter is just as important, just as crucial, and just as worthy of preparation as it would be if you were meeting with a small group or a large group. The other thing about that mindset is you never know who you're speaking with, and that person may be the one who then opens you up to many other people that you can facilitate for. All of it is part of the mission of what we do as facilitators. So the second thing that we want to talk about is the structure of the meeting. As I mentioned, there is information in the WholeHearted Facilitation Manual about that, but you want to allow people when you meet, even though they say they want to go deeper, even though you've prepared and you have some information that you'd like to share, you want to give them an opportunity when you first sit down to talk a little bit about what's on their hearts and minds to make sure that in that encounter, they still want to go in the same direction. Perhaps they talked to you last week after a session, a group session, but today, right before you meet, something really big has happened and they want to process that. If that happens, let them go in the direction that their hearts and minds are leading them. Why? Because whatever you have planned, they can never put themselves into that fully until they're able to get this other thing off their mind. Many times you can use the WholeHearted self-coaching model to work them through whatever conflict or problem that they're going through. As you get better and better at that model, it's not really structured. You don't go in a certain order, but you jump around based on the needs and the desires that are expressed by the individual. But for that structure, you want to think about asking them, what's on their heart and mind in that moment. If it's not anything heavy or deep, then you go into the activity that you want to complete with them, giving them an overview of what makes the activity important, walking them through each of the steps, making sure that they have the materials, and they complete that activity wholeheartedly. Oftentimes when I'm meeting with people one-on-one, I try to do things like remind them that they can be as vulnerable as they want to be. I try to listen on multiple levels, not just to what they're saying, but also listening to what they're not saying and watching what they're doing. And I try to be really engaged. There are moments when I have to show pieces of me in order to make it okay for them to show me broken pieces of them. I make the session not about me, but if it helps to add a little bit of information about me, I'll do that. So we open it up asking them questions. We then go through the structure of the activity. And then as we finalize the activity, we ask them what might they want to do differently or something they want to do new as a result of some of the ahas. This allows them to continue the process of going deeper even after the session is completed. In terms of techniques, I've mentioned one already, is that I try to listen on multiple levels. For me, my process involves prayer at the beginning. And my prayer is simply that I be diminished, that this session not be about me, but that I open myself up to totally hear from, see, and respond to the person in a wholehearted way that allows them to really hear themselves and process. That's a technique that I think is really important as well, that you create safe space that the person can really hear themselves. So even though they say, well, you know, I mentioned last time how X impacted me, then I'll say to them, well, talk about it again. Tell me again about how that impacted me. One of the strategies for that is to let them hear what they were saying and they connect it. So I noticed that you said that last time, but you added this detail this time. What's the difference? Why did that come up this time? Asking curious questions is so very important. I always say that intellectual curiosity, asking them if they are complaining about someone, I often will ask, well, I wonder what that person's life was like growing up. What do you think shaped them so that they are reacting to you or responding to you in this moment the way that they are? So making sure that you're asking questions. And then the final thing is something that I really mentioned before about creating that safe space. Creating safe space is so important. It comes in the beginning when we remind them that this is a confidential session. It comes in the way that I facilitate one-on-one with them by really being there and present and engaged. If I'm often looking around and not paying attention, it diminishes safe space. And it comes in me remembering the little details of things that they have mentioned previously. When we do that, people feel like, wow, if they really listened and they really care, it is a safe space for me to share more and to go deeper. The final technique is remembering that we must encourage people to do their own learning and to find their own solutions. Oftentimes people say, well, what would you do? And I have to remind them and myself that I'm only seeing a snippet of their situation. They're revealing to me the parts that they really want me to know, and sometimes I don't see the full picture. So I cannot weigh in on something that I only see a glimpse of. Instead, it would be letting them know, well, we are two different people. We have been impacted by so many different things in our past and our present that my response would not apply to yours, nor would my response be adequate because I don't know the full picture. I want to help you to find your solution. And if you can't find it in this one-on-one encounter, let's meet again. I tend to meet with people no more than an hour because over that it can be overwhelming for the person and for me. And so if we don't get everything done in that hour, then we schedule some more time to meet one-on-one. I think that it is very unlikely if you effectively do a small group or large group session that you won't have at least one person come to you and say that they want to meet one-on-one. So being prepared to have that kind of conversation and encounter is so very important. Before I end, I want to add one more thing. Those of us who do this facilitation work oftentimes have such a personality that people come to us and ask us questions. They ask us for our advice. And so we remember that even if it is not a session that has been scheduled beforehand, many times I'm at a family gathering or I'm somewhere in the public and someone sees me and they immediately go into what I call facilitation mode. They are saying things that are asking me to facilitate a conversation with them. And so I have to remember that no matter what environment I'm in, no matter whether this is scheduled or not, I always have to be prepared for facilitation. And so the strategies and structures that I created and that I shared today are things that I take with me almost everywhere I go. So remember, always be in that facilitation mode, always be in that curiosity mode, and always be in the mindset that it is not my job to solve someone else's situation. It is simply my opportunity and privilege to be present in the moment with someone, to ask them questions that allow them to solve their own solutions, and to bear witness to their process so that they feel like someone sees them, hears them, gets them, and gives them space to be who they were created to be. If we think about our encounters like that, then whether it is someone who saw us in a session or a family member, our child, our spouse, our parent, we will be of service to them no matter where we are and no matter what we do. I encourage you to keep facilitating. The more you do it, the more you think of what you do as facilitation, the better you become. Good luck.